What is up, kinfolk? So what we're about to discuss today is conservative teens versus liberal parents. It'll be interesting to see how liberal parents take the perspective of conservative teens. I wonder if they're really going to talk about like how they were raised and everything like that. So, without further ado, let's get into it.
The government has no right to tell people what to do with their body.
Vaccines.
I would say the government shouldn't tell you what to do with your life. Do what you want to with it. However, I do think that when it comes to abortion, there are two lives at stake. Therefore, you don't have the right to impede on someone else's life. My only exception is if the mother's life is in jeopardy. And even then, you should be trying to do everything you can to save both of them. You don't have to just straight up abort the baby because the mom's life is in jeopardy. Do everything that you can to help and save the mother. If the child dies, the child dies.
I stood here because of vaccines, but I know a lot of you guys probably look at me like, oh, what about abortion? Now, the thing is, when it comes to abortion, two bodies are involved. It's the woman and it's the fetus. The fetus, has a heartbeat, it has DNA. It should have rights.
When?
Life begins at conception.
That's not when the heart's there.
Heartbeat starts at 4 weeks. It's not just a clump of cells, it is life. At 21 weeks, it can live outside of the womb. Abortion ends with murder and death.
Over 90% of abortions happen within the first 10 weeks.
I think that's not acceptable.
But they still have the potential of having life, though. The mortality rate of a fetus getting aborted is 100%. It's going to die when it's aborted.
And you're very lucky you'll never have to experience what it's like to have to make that choice.
There's foster care, there's adoption, there's mothers waiting.
Those systems are very broken, and people all the time are trying to stop funding for programs like that.
Now, I want to ask you guys, do you support vaccine mandates?
Yes.
So you stepped forward and said the government shouldn't tell you what to do with your body, though. Why would you support?
My issue is that I believe that the government should not be able to tell me what to do with my body, but I have to accept the consequences for the choices that I make with my body. The vaccines, for instance, I absolutely felt that everyone should get vaccinated. Why? Because this was a pandemic. But if you don't want to, I don't think the government should have to tell you that you have to. But you then have to suffer the consequences of your choices.
Facts! I wonder how old this is, because if y'all are still spouting the vaccines, I really encourage you to look into Johnson & Johnson and all these other companies that came out with their vaccines, because some of the symptomology of getting some of this stuff was absolutely insane. And I didn't get the jab at all. Mine was more a family reason. Some of it was like, y'all ain't telling me what to do. And, it's my life and I would hate for it. And also, this is also because I'm Black and my conspiracy for, seeing how the government has treated certain people of my, when it comes to getting shots. So when everybody said that, Black folks are getting the vaccine, it's like, well, because the government and us have history. And when it comes to just injecting us with stuff, we don't really feel that confident in it.
I'm going to ask the disagreeers to step forward.
Well, I think I give a unique perspective on this because I actually do agree with the vaccine mandate. I think COVID was just a huge disaster, and I think it could have ended a lot sooner if things were more organized.
Definitely. As far as whether the government should intervene on people's bodies, I think there are a lot of instances where the government should. One, to protect the society in general, especially in cases such as a pandemic where the disease could literally wipe out cities. In other instances as well, such as drug use, I think the government should intervene, because when you have a society that's addicted to opioids or crack, it spreads like wildfire. And I've seen it firsthand, and it's very difficult to control without the help of government.
The government's job is not to protect everyone and not to baby everyone. The government's job is to protect your rights, not your life. You're down to do whatever you want to. And even when it comes down to crack and drugs, like, let's be honest, I can't even give the government the right to even want to tell people what to do with their bodies either, because let's look at the history. Who was pumping all these drugs into all these communities? Opioid crisis. Who was Big Pharma? Who are all these people? Like, they're in the pockets of these politicians. So you can miss me with that, bro. I'm sorry. I hear you, but no.
Not being an LGBTQ plus ally makes someone a bad person.
Just because you don't necessarily agree with someone's lifestyle does not mean that you're a bad person. I am a Christian. Some people say that I am a bigot for not supporting LGBTQ, whatever. My perspective is this: you're still a human being at the end of the day. You're still worthy of love. You're still worthy of respect. That doesn't mean that I have to get down with what you're getting down with. We can coexist, and I think that's the issue with people nowadays, is they just automatically assume because you're not with somebody. Not to mention too, I feel like with the movement, they have become a lot more radicalized in a lot of their views, that even normal people who would be allies can't even get down with it because some of the stuff that's coming out. That's one of the biggest things that I learned growing up and being one of 7 kids. I have siblings that do a whole bunch of stuff that I don't like, but at the end of the day, I still love them.
I'm actually bisexual, so I think not being an ally, as long as you're not harming people, you're not harassing people, you're not posting on social media that these people suck, then I don't think you're a bad person for that.
As a Christian, I don't think that being LGBTQ aligns with God's view of the family. It doesn't mean that I will disrespect them in any way. I just think that it's a sin.
As far as your faith is concerned, what would happen if your child came out to you that they were gay, bisexual, trans?
I think that if the sin is not practiced upon, it's not a problem. It can be dealt with, especially with transitioning. It usually comes from mental problems like depression, anxiety, all those things.
So you think they can be kind of taught to not be gay?
No.
So I think that if you want to be transgender, you could be transgender. We live in again, I said, a free nation. But if you're asking for my opinion, I believe that men and women are completely different. We have different chromosomes, different bone structure. If you are a transgender woman, I still view you as a man. You could express yourself as a woman, that's fine. But I don't believe that society should automatically, say that, okay, you're a woman. Let's say, for instance, there's a 18-year-old biological man, but says that they are a woman now. They still have male genitalia. They could walk into a woman's locker room and show off their male genitalia. I don't agree with that. I don't think that's okay.
That's not happening.
It is happening.
There is something that happened in Los Angeles where there was a person who identified as transgendered who went to a wash house, a female part of the wash house, where there were women and unfortunately young children, and he let his thing hang. And unfortunately, the staff said that they could not kick him out because he identified as a woman. And to do so would be discriminatory. They've had a couple incidences like that, unfortunately. And I don't want to put that on the transgender community whatsoever. I don't think that the majority of them are out there doing this. However, I will say this: there are a lot of people who are opportunists and who are, well, let's just face it, who are evil people. There are evil people in the world who will take advantage of something like this. In that regard, I do agree with them. It's not because transgender people are bad, but there are some bad people out there who would be more than willing to take advantage of a situation. Now you just made it a lot easier for them.
Owning a gun is a basic human right.
We had an incident here in California where the National Guard was called in, and there was like 2 nights of just absolute rioting and mayhem and destruction, and people were calling 911 and nobody, unfortunately, was able to answer their calls. We are in a society right now where we're losing police left and right based on a lot of the things with the Black Lives Matter movement and just people just retiring. So if you're going to rely on the government to protect you, I feel like you are making a very, very bad mistake. Even the rate of police calls and their response times have been going up tremendously over the past couple of years. So if you can make sure that your family is protected and safe, do that, but be also very careful. You got to make sure that you're doing your due diligence and learning as much as you can.
I actually debated whether or not I was going to sit down because I do believe people have the right to bear arms. I do. My issue is what kind of arms they're bearing. I believe people should get to go hunt, but do you need a semi-automatic rifle to do that? I'll tell you personally, I'm afraid of guns personally myself, but I just think there need to be stricter regulations with it.
My mom was scared of guns, and now she has a concealed carry permit. She was the biggest person who was anti-gun, but she had a family friend who was a cop, and she said, you know, just out of curiosity, if your kids ever came across a gun, do you think they would properly react to how to deal with it? And she's like, no. She's like, that I think is problematic. So at a really young age, they all took us to the range. If anything, if you never own a gun, knowing how to act when a gun is around, I think is very important. Another aspect is when it comes to school shootings. I learned how to shoot a gun in high school. We had a gun drill or a mass shooting drill. And when we decided to do the drill, now before I trusted the process, when we did the drill after I learned how to shoot a gun, I said, we are all going to die. You put us all into a group. Nobody has anything to defend themselves with. We are literally, if someone comes into that door, we are literally just a human meat shield that's just going to get blasted through. So even something as simple, and it's because people are ignorant. People don't know these things. And unfortunately, the teachers are told, hey, get all the kids in a group, put them in the corner, get away from the windows, get away from the doors. Yeah, I get that. But not taught, get some scissors to arm yourself with, because kids, we hope and pray to God nobody comes in here. But if somebody does, you better fight for your life, because there's nobody else who is coming to save us except for ourselves. If the police ain't here, we got to buck up and we got to go for it.
In my perspective, I grew up in a gun-riddled neighborhood. I myself am a gun owner now because of the fact that I had to create some type of means of self-defense.
So why did you disagree?
I disagree because I would prefer not to be. I think it's not a human right as much as almost a necessity for a lot of people. And not everyone. There's a lot of neighborhoods that are very safe, but even in a safe neighborhood, you can be robbed, you can be killed. I've been stuck up several times with a gun to my face, and all I could think of is, man, if I die, it's going to be because I didn't have a weapon to help protect me.
Do you think that we should take away all guns from the entire world?
Yes.
Unfortunately, that's not going to happen. And even in places where they have taken guns away, stabbings have been on the rise. Listen, as long as people hate each other, you're going to find a way to get yours and get after the person that you have beef with. And I feel like all the liberal parents are being very emotional. They're not really being very logical in a lot of their statements. Some of it, I do hear the logic, and some of it I'm just like, I'm like, bro, but the reality of the world is, as much as you feel a certain way, the world is not going to get better. It's not. So rather than just hoping and feeling, prepare yourself.
My political opinions have hurt my relationships with friends and family.
Ooh.
During 2020, when America got really politically intense, and my teacher, she was very politically active, and she wanted us to speak our voices, and they found out I was conservative, and they said, okay, you're completely going against what we believe. The whole school is very liberal, and I guess they just kind of pushed me away.
Did you feel like you would get bullied after?
I'll just get looks. Some people come up and say, you're a racist or you're xenophobic. They would tell me, oh, do you support Trump? But I just brushed it off. I told them, hey, I respect that you think like this. Please respect me.
Growing up in California as a conservative, let me tell you. When it was discussed about the whole gay marriage situation in class, because that was one of the props. That was one of the propositions. I held my tongue. For me at the time, I wasn't really strong on my convictions, and I was not really outspoken as I am now about how I actually believe. So yeah, I held my tongue. My brother, on the other hand, completely different story. I think the transgender topic was a huge thing when my baby brother was in school, as well as Trump. And my brother, he was a huge Trump fan. The great thing about him is he's a troll. He's a really funny guy, but he likes to troll people, especially when he knows that he can win in a debate. And that is what he did. But unfortunately for him, like he said, he did get bullied a little bit. he did have people label him a certain way because of what he thought. I think it depends on where you are. I feel like if you're a liberal living in the conservative like South, you're definitely gonna get some heat. You definitely will have a target on your back, specifically in the educational system. And if you're very outspoken about your beliefs, you can be hit with some type of ridicule.
The feminist movement is overrated.
The reason I sat down is because feminism as we know it in social media and the marches is generally run by white women, and we don't have a lot of intersectionality. Margaret Sanger.
Sydney, I was with you, then you lost me. I think that the problem with the feminist movement is we've gone too far, just like with everything else in our society. That now it's become, instead of like empowering women to be equal with men, it's become misandrous. Feminism has taken women to the point where they are no longer feeling as if they want to be empowered, but they want to be dictators. So is it overrated? Now, I won't say the whole entire movement was overrated. I feel like there are certain aspects of feminism that I think are really good. But as it is now, to her point, yes. But the issue isn't white women. The issue is women.
No, we got a long way to go. There's just not enough done.
In America or just in the world in general?
Well, America, for sure. The world in general is a heck of a lot worse than America.
Yeah, I agree with you.
I think that women should be able to do everything that men can, but we also have to protect ourselves. So if you want to be a stay-at-home mom and do one of the hardest jobs on the planet, you absolutely should be able to do that. But you should also discuss with your partner and put in things into place so that you're protected if you choose to do that. Some women aren't doing that, like life insurance and things like that. I think part of feminism is being able to take care of yourself.
I agree with her on that one. Yeah. I feel like on that regard, yes, but even how women are treating stay-at-home mothers these days are like, I've seen people on TikTok, women on TikTok, like go through their routine for making sure that their husband has an awesome day of work, which is waking up early, making them coffee, making them breakfast, making them their favorite foods, all this stuff. And then the comment sections will sometimes be riddled with women talking about that's what it means to be a slave, and girl, you're setting us back hundreds of years, like this is not what all these women died for. It's like, what? The fact that we can't be okay with women wanted to still be stay-at-home moms and not going out into the workforce is absolutely insane. The dudes aren't tripping about that. Once again, it's the women. How do you guys feel about this? I feel like the conservative teens, for the most part, were a lot more logical. I might be biased here. I'm going to admit I may be biased, but I feel like the conservative teens were a lot more logical. Let me know what you guys think. Would you give the W to the conservative teens, or are you giving it to the liberal parents? What do you feel like? What are some of the things that you agree with, some of the things you disagree with? Let me know how y'all feel. As always, kinfolk, I love y'all, and I will see y'all in the next one.